After about a month of testing, a month of driving, pulling my hair, writing this script, I think it's finally time to do the review on the Fanatec DD1 wheelbase. On this video, we will be mainly taking a look at the Podium DD1 wheelbase, but we are also touching on the bases for the Club Sport steering wheel F1 for PC and PS4. There will be a more extensive video on this topic at a later time. The Podium DD1 has been in the market for just about a year or so, and it has been the first effort for Fanatec into the direct drive segment of sim racing. As Fanatec covers most of the sim racing market, having a direct drive is a good way to capture a decent portion of the market into their more comprehensive ecosystem. But before going to the review itself, the necessary disclosure. I have been sent this equipment by Fanatec, and I also do have a Fanatec affiliate link in the description below if you decide to buy something and support this channel. Also, while you're there, why not leave a comment and also consider subscribing. While this review is centered on the DD1 wheel, some questions will be answered for the DD2 wheel as well due to how similar they are. The only main difference will be the amount of torque they deliver and also, of course, the taller price that comes with it. Speaking of prices, the prices will be €1,200 or dollar for the DD1, €1,500 or dollar for the DD2, €1,800 or dollars for the bundle DD1 and Club Sport steering wheel F1, which is the one that I have and we're currently reviewing. This is without tax in the US and excluding shipping and handling, which will be more expensive due to the weight of the parcel. The price point of this is quite hefty, you have to say it out loud, but it's more or less in the region of other offers from other companies. Direct drives, what is all the rage and how do they differ from belt or gear driven wheels? Long story short, direct drives, like the name implies, has the drive or shaft of the motor directly coupled to the wheel. This means no belts, gears or pulleys of any type are required to increase torque, which results in an action that is fast, crisp, and supposedly a more detailed force feedback. Those pulleys allow for a small motor to be inserted into a wheelbase, thus lowering the price of production, but at the expense of raw force that will be generated by the bigger one. For the more boring part or more interesting part, depending on your point of view, in terms of specifications, the DD1 wheelbase features an Outrunner type servo motor capable of achieving sustained 15 Nm of torque and 20 Nm of peak torque, and is compatible with all the Fanatec lineup. The DD2 itself, it will be 20 and 25 Nm respectively. Both bases will have an integrated 2.7-inch OLED display. There's two mounting methods. One will be with the Fanatec triangular pattern and the other one will be with a side addressed mount. The Podium Racing Wheel F1, which has the DD1 as a bundle, is compatible with the PC, PS4, and can be made compatible with the Xbox with a compatible steering wheel. So if you are buying one of these wheelbases to use on a console, make sure you buy the correct bundle, otherwise you won't have the correct compatibility. And speaking of compatibility, this is compatible with the PS4 and will be made compatible with the PS5, at least the one that is compatible with the PS4. In terms of Xbox compatibility, at this point in time, there's no indication if it will be compatible with the newer Xbox console. Speaking of steering wheels, the Club Sport F1 has a similar format to the Club Sport F1 Esports, though it has very important differences. Most notably, as a full-fledged Club Sport, it has two rotary encoders, two rocker switches, which I dub the nipple switches, two 12 multi-position switches with rotary encoder possibilities, side rev lights that can be fully customized in the Fanatec software and can be made into a rave party if you are so desired. After all, we're talking about a German company. A 128 by 64 OLED screen, and most importantly, the super decked Podium Advanced paddle model shifters already pre-installed. The rest of the wheel is very similar to the Formula 1 Esports that I reviewed a few months ago, with the exception of the construction that has the front plates made out of carbon fiber. I'll be doing a review on this wheel another time. Warranty-wise, the DD1 will have 3 years of warranty, the DD2 will have 5 years of warranty, and in terms of compatibility, it will be depending on what you buy. If you buy just the bases alone, so the DD1 or the DD2, they'll be compatible with the PC and Xbox, of course, as long as you have the correct steering wheel, but they won't be compatible with the PS4. If you want to make them compatible with the PS4, you have to buy this bundle. Running the risk of sounding like a total snob, the design is simple and functional, but there's only so much that you can do with a box shape with a shaft coming out of the middle. Despite the minimalist look, this box design does have its problems. It's tall and substantially longer than the CSL that I was running before because of the quick release shaft it boasts. The rear of the DD1 also needs to be unimpeded as the cooling solution of this wheelbase is on the back. What all of this meant for me is that I had to move the screen height, and also I had to move my seating position to something that is not as comfortable. Of course, this is a problem that I have with the Fanatec K2 due to its format, but I think a lot of people might have this issue as well. The back of the podium has all the connections and power buttons, so you're going to have a USB connector. On top of it, there is a very small power button. Then there's a slew of RJ connections. One of them, namely the third from the left on the top row, is for the torque key to enable the high torque function, a rather beefy power slot that connects to a substantially sized power brick. The OLED screen also has multiple functions, not only serves as a way to change your setup, your force feedback setup on the wheel, but also adds a few other analysis screens, including a force feedback analysis, system firmware info, motor data screen that shows an average and peak torque, and also temperature analysis. Once again, I need to remind you to leave enough space on the back as the wheelbase needs to breathe and the fans needs to work, and this base can get substantially heated up if you do not do so. As for the podium wheel, the construction is generally pretty great. It has excellent ergonomics, which are exactly the same as the ones we've seen in the eSports F1, and similar, if not the same, to the Carbon and Formula V2. The main differences will be the ones that I mentioned before, so that will be the front panel construction, which will be carbon. You do have these rev lights that are customizable on the software of Fanatec, and the advanced module. This is a great shifter module with crisp shifting action. One thing that is worth to be mentioned is that this version of the podium shifters, you have access to clutch pedals on the back that can be used as individual axes. One viewer on stream mentioned that he has a disability that makes it difficult for the use of pedals. So with this package, you can assign a throttle and a brake to drive. I know this is a super niche solution, but it's good to see this option available. We have to talk about the wobbliness of the system. In this case, I'm using an entry-level wheel on the Fanatec range. This is the most basic wheel of it all. It comes with the CSL if you buy it in a bundle. This is the Fanatec P1 wheel, and it doesn't have the quick release type. This is a screw-on type, as you can see from the side. It's a screw-on type, and you attach it with the screw, and you have to really move this in order to be fixed into place. The wobbliness of it is quite substantial, far more than we have on the CSL. We do still have it on the CSL, but as you can see, very wobbly. Now for something a little more substantial that already has this quick release, this is one of the Fanatec V2 wheels, Fanatec V2 Formula type wheels, and the movement is far less. There's still some wobbliness, but it's not something that is overly dramatic like it was on a P1, and you won't be scared of breaking something, and believe me, the P1 connectors do break quite a lot. Before going to the driving and my impressions of driving the DD1, I must state that for this wheel, so that is for the P1 wheel, there is a problem of connection between this and the DD1 wheelbase. This is an issue that is reported on the firmware 356, if I'm not mistaken. Apparently, the firmware 371 improves the connection. I haven't tried it. I'll have to do that on the future. I haven't done so because there are some issues with the beta firmware as of this moment. So this is something that I will try to follow up in the future. The driving and testing was mostly done in Assetto Corsa Competizione, Assetto Corsa, then R3 Automobilista 2, and also Dirt Rally, this on the PC side. On the PlayStation part of things, I've done in Assetto Corsa Competizione and also in GT Sport. I've tried to cover most use cases with all of these selections, but I wasn't able to try it on iRacing, R-Factor 2, and Project Cars 2, mainly due to time restraints. Initially, Assetto Corsa Competizione was the title that I centered myself with to set up the force feedback, and I can tell you that it was very hard to get something that I was comfortable with, that I found it natural to drive. The funny part is though, once you have a decent enough setup, it's very easy to change it and tweak it to another sim, with the exception of Dirt Rally 2, because there's nothing that can save that force feedback. One thing that I need to mention is about the smoothness of this wheel. When you turn this wheel off, I can tell you it's not totally smooth. There is a noticeable, it's small but noticeable step defect, which I believe is related to the Outrunner motor they're using. Then there's the case of the wheel acceleration, something that defines a lot of the small things that we are able to feel while driving. In this case, the DD1 is a tremendously fast wheel to rotate and to deliver the effects into the driving experience. This base loads and unloads force into the wheel at such a speed, it gives the impression of being directly into the driving seat. One example of that was during a stream we were having in Assetto Corsa at Road Atlanta with the Scuderia Glickenhaus. The first sector of the track felt like a roller coaster of tightening, releasing, and bump effects, and going on T1, it compresses the steering wheel and it slightly releases at the crest. Clipping corner 3 gets the bump effects, and then it releases and compresses at the same time, all of it in just 30 seconds. Belt and gear driven wheels do that too, don't get me wrong, but none so fast and precise as the DD1 or any direct drive wheels for that matter. In the sheer speed and acceleration of this wheel, unfortunately I couldn't test it in the way that I wanted fully, because the wheel that I have that is rotating, which is round, is this one, the P1, which has this mounting hole or mounting quick release, whatever you want to call it, which is made of plastic and doesn't give me any confidence of pushing it. These break quite easily if you start pushing the torque, or even as time passes, they can start to crack and then you'll have a broken wheel. So what the DD1 does automatically, and the DD2 as well, is that when you connect into the wheelbase, it will recognize this as a P1 wheel, and it will restrict the torque delivered by the wheelbase to 7.5 Newton meters, which is exactly the same or close to what the CSW version 2.5 does. In any case, it's strange to define the DD1 wheel or any direct drive wheel as being half step ahead because of acceleration, but it is how it is to me. The effects that this wheelbase is able to deliver are super crisp, and you can configure everything in the way that you want. If you want it smoother, if you want it a little more stepped up, you can change the interpolation value. But of course, the downside of it is that you're not going to have a simple configuration experience with it. Like I've mentioned before, sometimes it can feel kind of overwhelming if you're not sure what to do. Surprisingly, the PlayStation 4 experience was also in line with what I felt in the PC, not just in terms of wheel strengths, but because Gran Turismo Sport and Assetto Corsa Competizione force feedback are extremely well optimized. Assetto Corsa Competizione force feedback doesn't steer away from the PC counterparts, though it has a bit of differences. The CSL, on the other hand, always had this bit of a force feedback black hole. I have a video on it if you want to check it out. It will be in the top. In GT Sport, I always had a good experience with the T300 RS and CSL, but in the DD1, its experience is very much elevated, even with the most basic force feedback adjustments. A direct drive wheel is a bit of overkill, actually not a bit, a lot of overkill for the console, at least in my opinion, but it's good to see that Fanatec did not ignore the force feedback quality and integration just because it had the integration and compatibility box to tick. I've driven all my sim racing life with gear or belt wheels. We're talking about G25s, TT300 RS, or Fanatec CSL. You know, wheels of this type. This is one of the reasons I took so long in creating this review. And breaking a bit of the myth behind the direct drive wheels, These are not unicorns, neither they are imbued of ultra superpowers. They are absolutely smoother than other wheels in the market, but their main difference, the thing that matters the most, at least for me, is the torque delivery speed being absolutely bonkers. The other difference that can make or break this is the complexity of options provided in the software that, compounded with the direct drive servo's capability in delivering force and effects, can make it a bit overwhelming to set up in some titles. Like I said before, once you get a title more or less set up, you get an idea of what it is, and then you just change it in accordance to the need of a new title. It's still a pain to get everything set up to a degree that you like, and it's not always the case that you pick up somebody's force feedback setup for a direct drive wheel, or any wheel for that matter, and you're gonna like it, because force feedback is always hugely personal. Nevertheless, if we ignore that part of the complexity of setting up the force feedback, all the experiences I had with this wheel were fantastic, but at this price point, they really need to be. So this is the part of the video that I've tried to record many times and write the script, and I've failed miserably, so I'm going to try to do this a little more personal. I've bought the Fanatec CSL wheel late last year, so 8 months have passed, something like that, and I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that I wouldn't upgrade to the DD1 or any direct drive wheel as of this point. The reason might sound strange, but it's quite simple for me. I try to extract the maximum amount of value out of my equipment, and in just 8 months, the CSL kind of feels that it wasn't used quite properly. So does that mean that I don't recommend the Fanatec DD1? Not quite. In terms of an upgrade to something that is this expensive, I think, at least in my opinion, that more relative terms need to be talked about. In the case of something as expensive as a direct drive wheel, you really need to talk about the options provided by the Fanatec ecosystem, if you think that's important, the extra immersion level provided by a direct drive wheel, the force feedback quality, or if you have a setup for a decent amount of time. In that case, I can say, yeah, it might be worthwhile to do an upgrade to a direct drive wheel directly, or skip a few jumps if you want to. It really depends on your situation, and of course, how deep are your pockets. The kicker for me in terms of this specific product is the Fanatec ecosystem, because it has everything. It's easy to choose a wheel, or it has the options for the pedals, or if you want shifters or handbrakes or something like that. But if ecosystem is not really that important to you, there are also other options in the market. In terms of conclusions, the Fanatec Podium Racing F1 wheel, that includes the steering wheel and the Podium DD1 wheelbase, is a very good product in my opinion. It has access to all of the Fanatec ecosystem. It has compatibility depending on what product you choose with the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox, and in terms of price, I think it's adequately priced. Because of all of the features and the price it is sitting on, it is a good product. I recommend it, but of course, this won't be for everyone. And that's it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video and you find it informative. I'm really sorry for taking that long, but for this product, you really need to check everything and make sure that I have the correct information. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the notification bell. And if you decide to buy anything from Fanatec, there is an affiliate link in the description. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.